Justin here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am a T3 software engineer with over 5 years of experience so far, and I want to tell you guys about the rising need for embedded developers in 2025 and on to 2026. If you are just now becoming a software engineer, you might hear all of the headlines saying that software engineering is going away due to the rise of AI and the parts of and what AI can automate in comparison to a software engineer, and just how useless AI is making software engineering in general. There are a lot of truths to that, and to be honest, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do believe AI is better than most software engineers, and it makes slightly less mistakes. But this is only the case for software engineers because AI is opening up a new door for developers, and that is hardware. AI has made it extremely easy to launch a hardware company in 2025 and going on to 2026. Back then, if you want to launch a hardware company, you would need a lot of suppliers and a lot of knowledge up front. But thanks to globalization, the rise of China, and AI, of course, the barrier to entry for hardware startups like RabbitMQ or other types of hardware startups is becoming less of a barrier, and it's becoming easier for companies to launch a hardware company. Take Y Combinator, for example. You are seeing an increasing number of hardware based startups that are coming into fruition into 2025 and 2026. Also, you have the military industrial complex that needs more embedded developers for whatever the case might be. Take for example, Anduril or other type of drone based startups or tech companies. I noticed this in my role as I am somewhat of a mix between the two. I am a mix between being an embedded developer and a mix between being a basic software engineer. Embedded development is harder to automate due to a variety of things, but one thing that makes it pretty one thing that makes it extremely difficult to replace in comparison to a software engineer is the constant trial and errors that needs to be done for field testing. Field testing is testing an embedded system in a real world environment, like some type of testing environment that a company might have, and you have to actually go to where you need to go to test it out. And there are some things that simulation cannot properly evaluate, including randomness of nature or unexpected dangers that your adversary might make. And that is difficult to evaluate without actually having the hardware that they're using on hand or studying what they do. Also, embedded developers have to work closely with standards. One standard that exists is the ARCNIC 611 standard for aerospace um, companies, and these standards are highly critical of how you can allocate memory, how you can develop different, how you can use some functions within C, and this makes it extremely difficult to for any form of basic developer to build around these standards. And also, these standards can change with time, and the increasing bureaucracy that probably will continue to be added to these standards will make embedded developers much more employable. AI has a hard time actually following a lot of these standards due to how often they change. Also, it has a hard time understanding massive code bases in a financially restrictive or financially um, good way that won't cost a lot of money to debug and fix. Then once the AI debug and fix it, it will have to test it, field test it, and to a lot of companies, the profits won't make sense to replace embedded developers just yet. And I don't see this happening for the next 2 years. A, because the AI bubble is starting to pop. B, AI isn't becoming cheaper, it's just becoming more subsidized. And I don't see the subsidization continuing at the rate that it was in 2022, 2023. And B, you will need to understand a lot of documentation. You will need to understand a lot of rules. And you will need to understand a lot of new developer, new development techniques that are coming to fruition to make sure that your code is safe on whatever type of vehicle is going on. It's not like being a software engineer where you can hand wring some things around and be more off the beaten path. You have to follow a strict path within being an embedded developer. This makes it much more difficult to actually replace in comparison to being a full time software engineer for something like React.js or Python or so on and so forth. And also, this leads to another point that C will be much more difficult to fully replace due to the embedded nature of C++ and the multi-threading nature of C++. It's more niche and it's more interesting in general. So if you want to jump into being a software engineer or you're getting your computer science degree, I highly recommend being an embedded developer as it's much more difficult to fully replace and evaluate with human bodies. And right now, I don't think it's cost incentive for companies to replace embedded developers as so many things can go wrong with it. And we know AI is imperfect, it can hallucinate, and sometimes possibly a hallucination could lead to massive chaos or even death if not handled appropriately. I'm not saying humans don't do this, but I do believe right now that humans make slightly less mistakes than AI can. And it's not like a mistake for software engineering. Embedded mistakes can lead to fires, it can lead to death, it can lead to electrocution if it's not properly handled. So that's my take on it. If you want to jump into the computer science field, I highly recommend being an embedded engineer. It's rising. There are an increasing number of people that are starting a hardware company, and it's becoming a much needed, it's becoming a highly demanded skill for a good embedded engineer to create military based applications that will probably need a human to code for now. If you like what you just seen and you want more of these type of insights into the industry, please subscribe, like, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.